Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hello. Hello. Welcome to the Daily Study Group. It's a new 9 a.m. edition. I'm a little late, I guess, but I'm making coffee actually, so you can hear beeping and rustling, and that's just us waking up, getting some coffee, breakfast, stuff to go. We're going to go over a composition exercise today, and this exercise we'll be doing every day, but I kind of go through how we're going to do it. So what I'm going to do is start up that in 1 second. I just gotta grab my coffee. Back. Okay. Sorry about that delay again. Okay, I'm gonna get this right. This is we're going to do a composition exercise. So, you can find my work at www.mciii.net, facebook.com/iiimciii, username Crimson Daggers Forum, Mike086. It's also my username on Instagram and several other websites. Constart.org. Anyway, thank you for joining me, for watching us later. We're just going to go over a composition exercise, and what we're going to do is do this composition exercise every day for a few minutes out of the day. Okay. So we're going to look up some movie stills, and that's how we're going to do things, okay? Oops. We're going to first go to a movie still website. It doesn't kind of matter which one. I'm going to use Cinema Squid because they got some good movie stills. I'm going to pull the first still off here, which is this one from Prometheus. Oh, maybe it's not going to let me pull it off. Okay. Let me just go to screenshots. Cinema Squid, go to screenshots. Here you go. This is from The Shawshank Redemption. I'm going to just copy the image. We're going to throw it into Photoshop. And I'm going to do W. I'm going to click off the image. I'm going to say select inverse, make a new layer, and I'm going to fill it with white. Then I'm going to press V, and I'm going to move it off to the side. I'm going to create another new layer, and I'm going to option click between that layer, and what it's doing is it's going to only let me draw within the boundaries of that layer. I'm going to turn on just a opaque brush, and we're going to use this opaque brush as our brush for the composition studies. Basically, we're just going to go through and I'm going to turn the background light gray just so I can see the white. I just want a light gray to kind of read. Okay, there we go. So it's the same exact frame size, it's the same exact. Oh, it's the same exact size. We have a white layer. I'm going to go into the second layer, which will be the black layer. And with the black layer, we're going to go ahead and just carve out as quickly as we can, just carve out the major shapes. So here's Morgan Freeman. He's sitting down in the foreground. And then from his shoulder is a wall. And we've got some cops. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 cops. I'm going to make one more new layer. Option. Click between them. I'm going to take a 50% gray, turn that layer to multiply, and I'm just going to throw in this gray, this gray is the background in the distance, and it kind of just runs across this line here. I'm going to make sure my eraser and my pencil, or my brush tool, are going to be the same. Just a hard 100% opacity brush. And I can go back into this black layer. I'm going to erase a little bit of the black layer out right here because he's got this reflection in his face. And he's got his shoulders carved out with light. And he's got his other clothing carved out with light. You kind of see how that works. We're basically creating the still from just from the rough values, and we're setting those values up in 3s. It's just black, white, gray. I'm going to jump back to the gray layer, select the gray, and I'm just going to kind of color in, because I feel like some of the highlights, they kind of don't, except for the highlight in his face, it doesn't really read as pure white. So I feel like that's an accurate representation of what's going on right here. I'm going to go back real quick and just carve out his features a little more. It doesn't need to look like Morgan Freeman, it just needs to look like a face. So that's the face that's here. He's got a hat on, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the hat. Okay. So I'm going to go back over real quick with the gray layer and erase out some of this right here for the chin. Alright. He's got a little bit of highlight coming off the side here, and that we're going to put the gray on top of that because it's like a bounce light, so it's not as intense as the highlight. Hello.
Hey.
Thank you. I had a dream we were filming a movie and I was going to be an actor in it, and we were working with that one company that I don't work with anymore. It was really weird. Okay. I was talking to my girlfriend just then. But in case y'all wanted to know, I had a weird dream last night. Okay. There we go. So that's roughly what I'm reading from this. Majority of the background's white, some really dark shapes. I can go ahead and say that there's Let me go back into the black layer one more time. I'm just going to cut out the ground plane for the wall is, where the cops are sitting. Just because it's a little darker and it's a little lighter in value. I feel like it's light enough that we can call that gray, really. Let's go back up to the gray and fill that in real quick. That's kind of how we're going to be working, okay? I'm going to start, the way I'm going to do it is, I'm going to start with the white, black, identify the biggest shapes. I'm going to go back in and refine it with gray. I just got to brush that to 100% opacity, 100% flow. Eat some toast. If anyone's joining me midstream, they're not going to know what I'm doing, but whatever. Okay. We're going to put all these layers into a folder, and we're going to save that folder. We're just going to call this 1. It doesn't really matter what to me, it doesn't matter what this still is from. All that matters is that we label it correctly. So it's going to be called 1, and at 100% zooming, when I zoom at 100%, it's about this big, so that's a good size. Now I'm going to go back to Cinema Squid, find another, we're going to find another still, and I'm just going to pull it immediately. I'm not really going to think about it, I'm just going to pull the first one I see. I'm not going to try and nitpick it. I'm not going to try and find one I really want to do. I'm going to do the one that's the very next one in line, okay? So, hold on real quick. Sorry, I'm checking to make sure no one's jumping into the chat, because the moment someone jumps into the chat, I'll know that they're gonna not know what I'm doing, because we're not doing anatomy today. And, you know, we've been doing anatomy up until now. It looks like there's no one actually joining me right now, so what I'm going to do, I will get my coffee, so I'll be right back. Coffee time. Okay. Alright. Cool. So, same thing. We're going to do this again. We're going to do it kind of quickly so I can show you exactly how we're doing this. Okay. I'm eating while we do this, so forgive me. We got the, okay, so here goes. We got the still on a separate layer. We can use the wand tool. We're going to press outside of the still. It's going to select everything but the still. Selection, inverse, create new layer, select white, fill that layer, create another new layer, option, click between the two layers. It's going to isolate whatever we draw on this new layer into that white square. And we're going to call this one, I'll just label it so we have it black. Another new layer, option, quick click between them. This next new layer is going to be called gray. And the first one is the white one. I'm not going to label that one, just don't need to. Okay, so now I'm going to move the white layer, and whatever I move in the white layer, it's not like a mask, it's not going to move with the mask. What it's going to do is, it's going to move within, like if I move, let me do it this way. If I make a black mark on the black layer, it's isolated within the white layer. But if I move the white layer, it's moving it around the mark, right? Just so keep that in mind. If you try and move your layer, the pixels are going to stay back there. Okay, so from this still, what I'm seeing is it's majority gray, and the black, the darkest parts are the figure in the foreground. So we're going to have him here. And this is a nice one to show because it's almost the same. It's almost the same composition as the other one. It's got a big figure, kind of off-centered, but it's not, you know. His head's going to be the lightest part, and his hand. So his head and his hand are the lightest parts. So I can carve out. Oh, let's turn this black. The black layer and the gray layer are going to be set to multiply, just so y'all understand how that works. So with the black layer set to multiply, I'm just going to kind of jump back and forth and carve out his face area. It doesn't need to be exact. It just needs to convey the general idea that his face is here. And we're going to go ahead and put in his shirt and tie. Only because he's so big, he's so big that shirt and tie are kind of creating some big shapes that wouldn't have been created otherwise. The hand's kind of off to here. The gun is right here. Okay, now we're going to go to the gray layer, select 50% gray. I selected it from my previous image. I'm going to start by kind of blocking out the 50% gray in his face, and it kind of goes into 50% here. And for me, what I'm getting is that the whole rest of the background is this 50% gray. As far as when I generalize into 3 tones, the background's gray, he's the darkest, and his face and his hands and his shirt are the lightest. So come back in here and kind of carve out where the hand's going to be, because the hand stands out from the background. Okay. There we go. So we've isolated the 3, with these 3 colors we've created the still, right? This is dark. I mean, I'm debating whether or not I would put the black back here for that square behind his head. I feel like it might be of value to do that. Let's just try it out. We could always erase it. I feel like that shape is kind of like melding into him because it's so dark in the background there. There's no really, I mean, unless you're just getting the shapes completely wrong, it's really no right and wrong way to do this. Okay. I'm just going to carve out, so there's a highlight on the door that makes his shoulder pop out, and that's important, so I'm carving that out a bit. And likewise on the gun, the highlights make the gun come forward. I'm not trying to make it look beautiful, I'm not trying to make it look like crazy good. I'm just trying to read the shapes loosely and go back in and make that happen. When we go back to the gray layer, I'm going to erase some of the gray on the gun highlight and some of the gray from the shoulder. Okay. And yeah, so I think that's roughly this still. That's about, let me go back in with the black real quick and just put in where his eye is, because his eye, that pupil of his eye becomes isolated by the rest of the values in the face. Okay. Great. So, same thing we did before. I'm going to put this still into a folder. Keep the layers separate. We're going to call that folder 2. And I'm just going to bring the still up towards the other still. I'm going to line up the corners. I'm going to free transform it. Didn't exactly work the way I thought it was, because I forgot that there's other things in the layer I'm not considering. Okay. Right, there you go. The same size now. I'm going to delete this still. And no viewers? Cool. It's better if there's no viewers now, because you're not going to know what I'm doing. If you're watching this later, it makes sense. Okay, next we're just going to go through each of them. You know, I'm not going to sit here and decide which one's the best one for me. I'm just going to go through each of them, and it's kind of like I'm going to do this still regardless of whether I want to or not. You know, like I don't want to find the stills that I think I want to draw. I'm just going to do all of them. Same process. Okay. On the black layer, we're going to block out all the black shapes really quickly. this frame seems to be divided in half with black. We're going to go in and refine it a bit, but it's about halfway in black. It's got this like black T in the background, which is where the door is. Let's really start thinking about what's going on now. Let's get a picture frame, picture frame, picture frame, picture frame, and then it's got a person sitting here. Oh, it's got to be in white. Person sitting here, person sitting here, person sitting here, person sitting here, person sitting here. Here, sitting here, sitting here, sitting here, sitting here. There's actually some of the heads are like against the wall. So person sitting here, person, 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 person. And then likewise in the background there's one head, 2, 3. And then we're going to cut out his body shape of the man in the foreground. We're still got to add in the gray, the 50% gray. Right now what I'm not doing is I'm not really paying attention to how long it's taking me, but we're going to do that a little bit later. We're going to start identifying some things in here, and that's one of the other important parts to this. I'll explain to you like what's going on here, because there's a lot going on in this one frame. This frame is more than just a man in the middle of the frame. If it was just a man in the middle of the frame, it'd be a pretty boring image. But there's a bunch of things going on. Huh? Okay. There's a bunch of things going on in here that are pretty cool. So, on the gray layer, 50% gray, we're going to start with, let me see, I think like, oops, wrong color, there we go. The background's gray. To me, the background's, it's got less contrast, so I'm going to call the background gray. Side of his face right here is carved out with the gray. His face is lighter than the background. That's how I determine whether it's gray or white. If the face is lighter, or if something is lighter, then like if it stands out more, it's typically because of the value. And since we're only using 3 values, it's going to be one or the other, right? This crap. This banister thing is gray. The faces, I'm gonna call them gray. I know they might have more of a highlight to them. Like if I can go back in here and kind of like show you that there's like some highlight on them. I guess we'll do that. We'll just leave the white where the highlight of their foreheads are. Okay. And then gonna color him in with gray. And we're going to cut out some of the highlights. So I'm going to kind of leave that part open because we're already going to erase some in. His nose, upper lip, bottom lip, chin, neck, shirt, tie is isolated. And then back to the black layer. Select black. Have some pretty darks on the side of his face here. It's gonna be in the 70s until later, I think. It's gonna feel good like it was yesterday. Okay. This part of his shoulders darker. He's got some dark lines here, dark line there. We're gonna erase some of the black real quick for the banister in the background. Oops. Banister, banister, banister. Go back to the gray layer and just fill it in real quick. And then let's just cut in here and just kind of isolate the eye. Just a tad. I'm just going to cut out some of the white here, just because you're kind of drawn into the eyes. Okay, there we go. So, before I shrink this still down, we're going to put it in a group. I'm just going to talk about it briefly. So, the focus is the central figure, and at this time I think he's being... You going? I love you. Yeah. Maybe you should walk in with your drink too. You're spiky. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I love you. Okay. Tell me how everything goes, okay?
Yeah, I'll be back.
Oh, you come back? Okay, good. I'll see you later then. Bye, love. Right. So, let's talk about it quick. It's the main figure is centrally located. Everything is drawn to the center. Everything in this picture leads you to the center of the image. Before, when we drew out the shape, it was a T, a black T, with the branch of the T being right here in the center, and these repeating picture frames creating a sequence that leads you to the center. And then you got all the heads, which are light on dark, creating a pattern, dot, 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 leads you to the center, dot, 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 center. The lines, everything's structured to go to the center. And at this moment in the movie, he's receiving the guilty verdict where he's going to be going away for a very long time. And it's just like a, tragic. It's tragic for him. Oops. So, we're just going to shrink this now, put it up to the side. Oops. Didn't hold shift. Okay, there you go. So you got 3 stills done so far from this movie. So today, we're going to keep doing that. So we're going to keep doing. I'm going to do it for a little bit more time. If you're just joining me, I'll go through it again. Go to Cinema Squid. Go to Cinema Squid. Click Screenshots. Pick out the first movie that stands out to you. I picked Shawshank Redemption. It kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. We're gonna be doing these every day. For at least part of our study every day, we're gonna do this. Okay. So, starting with the first image, don't scroll down. Don't find an image you like. Just start with the very first image, whether you like it or not. You have to do it this way. Go through, and we're gonna do a breakdown of each image. So, here's the image. It's on its own layer. Click W for the wand tool. Click the outside of the image. It selects everything but the image. Select inverse. Now that we've inversed the image, we're isolating that one square, rectangle. Create new layer. Click white. Fill it with white. Create new layer. Option. Click between layer. Another new layer. Option. Click between layer. You should have 3 layers. 2 layers have arrows pointing down to the original layer. Turn those to multiply. And then we're just going to move this white square off to the side so we can see the movie still. Okay. So, in simple shapes, we're going to break down what's going on in here. Right off the bat, it looks like we're going to have to jump straight to the gray layer and work with the gray layer first and the black layer last. Let's take 50% gray. We're working with 50% gray, black, and white. That's it. 50% gray, we're going to just block in the shape of the majority of this frame. And I'm going to kind of carve out the architecture a little bit because I feel like that's kind of an important part. What I mean by that is, like, because there's just trees in the foreground, that that man-made shape stands out against the trees. All right. Okay. So if these are just trees, they're erratic, they're not. And then these shapes right here are going to be very straight, very man-made. Trees, erratic trees. Okay? So we got gray, top of white. And now we go to the black layer, select black. Remember, the gray is set to multiply, so it's whatever I paint underneath it's going to show up through the gray. I'm eating toast and drinking tea. Okay. So, starting with the building, there's some dark points here. And we'll call the grass, because we're breaking this up into 3 colors, we're going to call that patch of grass black. Because that shape stands out against the gray of the streets. And we're going to call the other parts of the grass where the trees are, because they're a little darker, black. We got some like foliage here, it gets darker, It kind of fades and dissipates over here as it gets closer and away from you. Same thing here. Foliage dissipates as it gets closer and away. I'm sorry, not closer and away. As it gets closer, further away from the building, closer to you, that's what I meant to say. And then these cars that are next to the island, it's like car, 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 car. Go back up to the gray layer. We're going to just erase out this ambulance because it's white on gray. It stands out. I think it's a prisoner bus, and in the Shawshank Redemption it's all about a prison. This is the beginning of the movie. This is probably the protagonist in that car being driven to the prison. You kind of get an idea how this is working. Okay. The building, the way the building looks, to me it looks like the tops of the building we're going to call gray, and we're going to call that lighter gray white because the contrast is so great against the gray of the building and the road itself that it kind of makes the building stand out a bit. Okay, so what I'm doing is we're deciding between these three colors what's going on in this picture. Okay, so the way I've decided this is that when the contrast is great, like the trees get darker, the shadow of the trees is darker as it gets closer to this building, right? The building has a dark gray roof with light gray walls, but then the sky itself is lighter than everything. So the sky is one of the lightest points, and then the bus stands out on the road that's gray, and then the green of the grass stands out against the rest of the gray. Okay, now in this case it's literally kind of a gray in the photo, and because I only have three colors, I'm literally going to use gray and black, right? Actually I need some more black on just right here where I can kind of show where the grass is, so that's black. That's black, okay? There we go. And I'm going to kind of erase out some of this black a bit just because it's not so dark, but you get the idea, okay? Now we're going to just make a new folder. There's a little folder icon below the layers. Put all those layers in the folder. We're going to call this folder 4, and we're going to just shrink it to the same size as these other frames we've already done. Line up a corner with one of your previous frames and just resize it that way. Okay. Now I'm just going to delete the still. I don't need that anymore. So we've got these little compositions we're creating, right? The first few are the same kind of thing as a person against a background, but you can see how there's different ways to incorporate a person against a background. And already you see 3 different options. If you ever have to draw just a dude with the background behind him, there's 3 different portraits with the character on a background. And the relation of the contrast is dependent upon, in this case, the guy was so prominent off the background that the rest of the background read as gray. It read as gray, not the color red. And the highlights and what made him stood out were right in his face and his hand. He's holding a gun. He's in the middle of a courtroom. Okay. Let's go to the next one. We're just going to go straight down to the next still without really getting it to decide whether we like it or not. part of, well, the reason I'm saying don't pick a still that you like, I'm saying don't look at the still long enough that you'd be like, oh, I like this one, or I don't like this one. Is because your mind is telling yourself that we're going to break this still down. Certain stills are easier to break down than others, and you don't want to choose the easy one. You just want to choose the still. Whether it's easy or hard, you got to do the breakdown. The reason I'm saying we got to do the breakdown is because we're kind of, if it is a hard still to pick out, like the values, then it kind of works better that way, because it helps you start seeing the relationships of the values in the overall composition, whether you want to or not. Okay, new layer, option, click between the layers, new layer, option, click between the layers, set those two layers to multiply. Okay, so in this case, sorry, it's 10 o'clock already, but I kind of got started late because I was making coffee, which I need to drink later, but anyway. Let's just do this still now. We got to get this process down, because the next few days what we're going to do is we're only going to allow ourselves to have 2 minutes to do these. Okay? And eventually we're only going to have a minute to do these. And once you get to the minute breakdown, you got to realize that you're going to have to really quickly, in broad strokes, make some big shapes pretty fast. And that's what we want. We want big shapes very fast. And yeah. See how these guys, the eyeshadow, there's someone leaf blowing outside. If you hear that noise, it's a leaf blower. These guys, the eyeshadow is reads as black, it reads as dark spots. Like, you don't really see their eyes. It's only reading as straight up shadow. So this guy's sitting down here, and then you got these things in the background. 1, 2, 3. His head's interrupting this one. 4. We're going to kind of go in here and create a newer kind of midtone by create newer midtone by kind of using a hatching method. Okay. I feel like there's not much going on in terms of white. I feel like the most white would be like the cigarette here the guy has in his mouth. That's really it. You kind of see the prison, his number here, and the guy's cap kind of stands out in terms of contrast. Everything else is pretty gray. Everything else is pretty monotone. Kind of lighten up where the shirts are, because their shirts do. Well, the thing is, their shirts kind of blend into the background, and that's kind of important in the scene. It's important in the scene because I believe, from my knowledge of this movie, is that this is when they first drive up to Shawshank, and Shawshank's a giant prison. So you'll see that this is a group of prisoners that's watching as they arrive to the prison, and naturally, at the prison, everyone just kind of blends into the background, like they're just one with the prison itself. The shirt's the same gray as the brick of the prison, you know? And visually, that's kind of telling you something. But also, you got these lines. Okay, we got the repetitive windows leading to the featured characters, so it's like bum, 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 here they are. And then you got the lines of the wall leading. This one almost leads to the guy's eye line. It's like right here in his mouth. I kind of drew it crooked, but you get the idea. This other line, this other series of lines leads to this guy's face. And then opposite on this wall, you've got another series of lines that leads to this guy's face. So each character has lines that are leading you into their face. And actually, if we took the characters away, what we're looking at we're looking at basically a big arrow, right? So let me just do a new layer real quick and show you. If we took and I'll do it in red. If we took the characters out, what we're looking at is a series of lines that come together. There's lines here, and there's lines here, and they all come to this line here, this horizontal, which leads to this character and these two dudes, right? So it's leading particularly to this guy, and I feel like because he's dressed differently, he's got the white cap on, he's got a blue jean jacket, he's probably someone more important, someone different than these two characters. These guys are looking exactly the same. I'm trying to read the scene just from the still alone, which is something you can practice a little bit. It's not too important, but I mean, in terms of like, if you know the movie that you picked out and you're looking at the still, if you can pick out what's going on in that moment and kind of see how or why the framing was chose the way it was, it it creates better storytelling. Storytelling through the whatchamacallit. Storytelling through the shape placement and the contrast. Okay, now I'm going to just delete that still. I don't really want that anymore. I'm just going to go on to the next one. Okay. I think this one will be the last one. This is a nice one here too. This has got a whole new set of contrasts going on. Yeah, it's a bit copy image. This will be the last one for today, but we're going to come back to these tomorrow. And I'll kind of go through these again tomorrow. Excuse me. I'm going to widen the frame out so I can kind of see everything. There we go. Okay, so these little breakdowns are the core of the composition studies. And beyond just creating the breakdown, picking out what's going on will be the most important thing. Picking out visually what's going on within the frame. For instance, the second frame looked like there was not much going on, but we had that dark shape behind the man. And on the door there was a reflection. The reflection helped you read his shoulder. Anyway, keep going with this. Make sure those layers are set to multiply. This one's going to be a majority black with white. It's going to be high contrast. And we'll do some gray. So, about here we have a window, about here we have a window, and like way over here we have a window. Actually, it's like right there. Okay? I'm going to cut out where the pillars are, even though we're going to go back in and do some gray on those pillars. Pillar, pillar. There's a pillar, pillar. And actually this pillar here is lighter. And there's this one right here that's like right there. Well, actually, let me redo that. So there's the important parts of the placement here. I'm going to just make it all black. Come in with my white. I'm going to start with the pillars. This pillar is about here. That first pillar, if you go from right to left, there's this first pillar, and then there's a brighter pillar right here. It's smaller. And then the last pillar is like right here. And then there's a window right here. And then on this side of the window, we go up and touch the top. It's the window. Okay. Same thing next to it. A window. Okay. And then we're going to cut out the shapes of the people's feet. And then we'll extend those shadows. It looks like the shadows kind of... Okay, see what the shadows are? This darker band in the still, that's their torsos. And then I'll quickly kind of just put in like their head and the shoulder. Okay. And then there's a figure right here. standing within the band of shadow. Take note of that, because that's something, that's important. He's standing within the band of shadow in front of them. It's not, I mean, I say it's important, it's not like ridiculously important. It's just something that you can note in terms of like, his placement. Like, he's just lined up along that band of light. Shadow, sorry. Okay, so now we're going to go to the gray layer, select gray. I'm going to just put the gray in on the pillars, particularly these two, and the gray here. There's lots of stuff going on in this neighborhood today. Okay. Gray. And the gray. Here we go. That little shape is further back than it appears. Okay, there we go. That's pretty much a breakdown of that one. This one here, let's see. The way we have it, we have everything kind of off balance, and let me do this. Go to the crop tool. Okay. Trying to see if there's anything I'm reading that. Let me just. Don't crop. Let me go to the movie still itself and do that. I'm trying to pull information out as best I can. I selected the movie tool layer with the wand tool, and then I click the crop tool. Yeah, okay, so everything's divided along the thirds. That's for one thing. So like the center pillars and the center third, this important figure is next to this pillar in the first third, and then this last third is kind of empty. But and then horizontally, we have all the central figures in the center third. See that? All the heads, all the human heads right here in the center. And then up here we have some of the highest points of contrast. Now, what's going on here? These men arrived at a prison for the first time, and they're talking to this guy who's in charge. That's Shawshank Redemption, right? The light, the only source of light, is above them. It's behind these little bars already, and it's like basically creating a little face here. This is my breakdown. This isn't like an official thing. I'm just saying this is what I'm getting from this. It's kind of creating a face, this oppressive, like, eyes looking down on them. They're in a prison. This guy's in charge. He's not part of the line. He's standing in the darkness of their form, which if this were like a fine art piece, we would read into that some more, that the man is located in the shadow instead of in the light. And anyway, but yeah, the center third contains all the people. Top third's got the brightest points of contrast, and it's creating this overbearing sense on top of these men. The light's just beating onto them and scattering their shadows out, creating this little fan shape, which you can follow towards. Follow the repeating leg shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You go all the way up here. Where does it lead you to? It leads you to the central figure. Follow this band of shadow. Where does it lead you to? Central figure. There's another little band right here. Where does it lead you to? Central figure. It isolates the central figure in these big shapes. And we got this little pole right here. And the only other source of light that's not behind these men over here is right here, above the central figure. Everything is leading you to the central figure, who's the guy in charge. This guy over here is a bailiff, I think, because he's standing away from the group. But that's more of just of a general knowledge of the movie. But Yeah, and that too, this area contrast is a lot lower than the contrast between the men. So the light between the men is lower than the light right here, which is something you can really read into. I mean, you can't really, like, visually, it separates this dude. Let me get a new layer. Visually, it'll separate this guy because the band of light and contrast is over here. You can isolate the bands. It's repeated, see, everything here is repeated lines, like the lines of these guys, the lines in the shadows. There's the band, some more lines. He's isolated, so he's not part of the group. And there's like this lack of contrast here. So, when your eyes see repeated things, you want to follow the sequence. You always like to follow, like the human eye likes to follow a sequence. In this case, the sequence is human, 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 big guy in charge. Shadow, 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 big guy in charge. Band of darkness, just in case you didn't get it. Here's a band of darkness, it just leads you straight to him. Here's another band of shadow, 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 that's going to just be on the other side to kind of repeat that same motif. And point of contrast, the only other point of contrast right here with the pillar, which happens to be top of the guy in charge. Top of the guy that's talking, doing all the you know, he's the one that's the focus is on. The other thing you can think about in terms of prisons and the idea of a prison is that these men are visually creating a motif of repetitive vertical lines. And then there's this harsh bar, and then there's more repetitive lines. More repetitive lines. What, you know, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but like, when we think of prison, repetitive lines, bars, cages, bars, visual motif that's going on there. They could have had the men in a circle, but they didn't have them in a line. They could have had the men in a straight line, leading back, but they have them in this horizontal line. Part of that's because it's a procedure that people do with the military, or when you go and when you become part of a prison, they kind of line you up like this and go through everything. But to have that motif of vertical lines, and it's just extra stuff you could do. It's just one of those things. I'm kind of jumping in more on the fine art part of it, where like if you're doing a prison scene, to incorporate vertical lines helps to add the incorporation of vertical lines will help to add to that sense of cagedness, closed off, you know, whatever, isolation. Okay. And just going to close that down. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. It's only a few, but we're going to speed up as we do this. And eventually we'll do a few, one every minute. And we'll do like the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We'll do some little speed comp thumbnails. And we got to say something about each of them. So we'll do the thumbnails, the speed comps, and then we'll go back and like talk about them a little bit. That's the most important part for me, is to look into it and actually talk about what's going on in the image itself. That's what's going to help the most. It's going to pull parts of the composition that you weren't considering and like you weren't thinking about, that you saw but you didn't actually see. As people have joined me, you might need to go back to the beginning of the video to hear what I was doing exactly, but we're going to be doing some of these every day, along with some more still life stuff and photo studies. But just keep in mind that we're going to speed up this process, so watch the video again if you didn't catch the beginning, learn what I'm doing, and eventually we're going to do one of these little thumbnails a minute, and we're going to go through and talk about them, okay? And then later on we'll rearrange the elements of the thumbnails. And we're just going to talk about some storytelling devices and visual storytelling devices and visual motifs that help convey a sense of some kind of an emotion that's necessary for the story. So like in this last thumb, when we had the men standing side by side, creating this vertical shadows, which echoes the idea of prison bars. They're in a prison. They are kind of separated. Actually, I didn't say this, but let me go back to that. They're separated, so the man is here. I'll wait for the screen to kind of load up. The man's here, who's the guy in charge of the prison, and there's 4 pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4. The men are inside those 4 pillars. And if you look closely at this image, there's actually, this guy here is a cop. So there's another cop here doing stuff. But the men are lined up as a bar, or as a series of people, creating this motif of bars in a box created by the 4 pillars. And the man's on the outside of the box. So already they're inside this prison, they're inside this cell together. And who is on the outside? This guard, this guy, that guy. I think this guy might just be lining up though, now that I'm looking at him again. But you get the idea. It's that selling a feeling visually. And it gets down to real basics, like that kind of stuff, like having men lined up, creating this idea of bars. That's as basic as it gets, but it's important to do that kind of stuff. It's and then like the pillars, the 4 pillars, in between the 4 pillars, it just helps to give you that feeling of isolation, cage, and all the windows are barred up. That's also because it's a prison, so of course the windows will be barred up. Anyway, it's a great movie too. If you haven't seen it, you should see the movie. We'll do more of these, and we're going to kind of spread out our studies in terms of like what we're doing the next few days. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to get back to work on stuff. I'll come online and do my stream in a second. So my stream, I mean, I'll just have some music playing, and I'll work with some music. So thanks for joining me. I'm going to post this up with the Daily Study Group thread. I'm going to be on here every morning at 9 a.m. If not, I mean, 9 a.m. give or take a few minutes, or like I might be running a little late, but 9 a.m. is the time, okay? So yeah, just we'll save this as comps. Comp-studies. And we're going to keep going on this, and then later, the reason I want everyone to keep the layers separate is because we'll go in and play around with those elements later and create new compositions that are entirely from our imagination, and kind of see the power of that. Anyway. Oh yeah, I don't think I talked about the first one. The first one's got the figure here, and the wall leads to his face, and then the repetitive silhouettes of the cops. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's that same sequence. A sequence of things leads the eye like a line. So once things are repeated, it becomes a line to lead you. And they happen to be at eye level with Morgan Freeman. Anyway, close that, and I'll get to work on stuff in a bit. I'm gonna get my coffee and kind of clean up some of this breakfast stuff I just had. But yeah. Thanks for joining again, and I'll see everyone tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the study.